Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables, sponsored by Analyst Depot. I'm your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Junkin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was reading the fact that we both tweet nearly the same thing to share the podcast. I said talking football. You said talking about football.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I've been doing the talking football thing since like our first episode. So I don't want to say that we tweet so much the same thing, so much as you've just eventually started tweeting the same thing as me.
It might be that. I really do need to think of something witty to say beforehand, because then the intro music starts and then I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
so.
That's why I've been saying that since day one. It's because the intro music starts, because I click it and I go, I should really tweet about our show. And then I just say talking about some football, and I normally add like week 1 football or preseason.
Yeah.
Or today I posted tonight because it's week 2. Like
There we go.
I don't know.
Smart.
I'm nothing if not smart. That's for sure.
Well, I went 11-5 again this week at picks. I'm still kind of proud of that. I think I should be proud of that. It's not that bad. So I'm 22-10 on the season, but I lost in a killer way on a parlay. Did you see that tweet of mine?
No, I don't look at your tweets.
That's mean. I lost a 6-leg anytime touchdown scorer parlay because of frickin' Javonte Williams. It was Saquon Barkley, James Conner, Kyron Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, who all scored touchdowns, and then not Javonte Williams because they were in the red zone and chose to pass it 4 times instead of run it.
I mean, if we're being honest, it's kind of on you for picking Javonte Williams more so than it is on him.
Listen, I put the blame on John Payton.
Well, yeah.
That's it.
And he would put the blame on Russell Wilson. So
yeah, that's true.
We can
all play this Spider-Man pointing meme. That's what it is.
That's not Spider-Man. You're thinking of The Office.
Well, that's the finger guns. I'm talking about it's the same kind of thing.
No, finger guns is where you're blaming each other. Pointing is when you're all the same person. You, Sean Payton, and Russell Wilson are not all the same person. You're all blaming each other. It's much closer to The Office.
Finger guns. You're right. That's a good one.
Thank you. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right. That's it.
Technically, the Spider-Man thing was 2 to begin with. It's evolved since then, obviously. But
yes.
You know.
All right. Week 2 wrapped up. Lots to talk about. Let's talk about some news first. Right before the show, running back Cam Akers was traded from the Rams to the Vikings for a late round pick swap after he was a healthy scratch this week, which came pretty late. It happened while you guys were doing your start sit show.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened with Cam Akers in LA. Like there was all the talk about him getting traded last season, and then that just never happened. And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we're gonna trade him. He's not gonna play for us again, but we're not gonna cut him either. It's very odd. I'm not saying that because he's a good player, because he was before the Achilles thing. I don't think he's been the same since. Mm-hmm. It's just I would love to be a fly on the wall in whatever the heck happened back there. Yeah. I don't know if it's Kyron Williams, but he got more touches than Kyron week 1. I don't know. I have no idea, but yeah, weird stuff. It happened.
Weird. Yep. So he is now a Viking. Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams resigned this morning.
Speaking of weird,
saying he was going to spend time with family and friends. He was stepping away for personal reasons. All of this happened around weird rumors this morning that floated around about Hallis.
It's probably best we don't. I don't want to even talk about it.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Just look, because it involves some very serious accusations that we don't really know at this point to be true or untrue. The Bears have come out refuting some of it, but not all of it. So at this point, I'm going to assume it's all not true, because if it is true, it will come to light at some point.
Yep.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on Twitter and do some internet sleuthing. It's not that hard to find. I found it while I was sitting at work.
Yep.
So yeah, weird stuff though. Very weird involving a former Bears player possibly being in the FBI. That one I don't mind because it's not like bad. It's just kind
Interesting.
of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's what
Very
my friend initially sent me with no context, and I was like, what is going on? I was like sitting next to my boss in a meeting, and I get this text. I look at
Yeah.
my watch. I'm like, what the?
What do you
talking
mean? Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because of one more weird thing. Raiders defensive end Chandler Jones has been placed on the not football injury list after he's been away for a little bit and has been odd on social media. Claimed some of his social media was hacked after some of the odd things he posted. But
Yeah.
I do want to share one of the tweets. I mean, it was public record where he says, "I wish I could play with my brothers, but Marky Mark is holding a huge secret that only I know. That is why I'm asking for protection. Sorry if I sound scared because I'm not, LOL. When I found out, I was LOL."
Nothing like putting LOL in a tweet multiple
Twice.
times to make yourself not sound uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I feel that.
So shortly after he went on, there were some accusations there I'm not going to name that he posted on Twitter about what he's claiming Mark has a secret about. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Weird things going on. He is now on the non-football injury list.
Yeah, real weird. Has been real weird for a while. And we just seemingly haven't gotten any news at all.
Yep.
Which is almost more confusing. But no one is saying anything about it except him.
Yes.
So don't call Chicago PD. Wow, a deep cut from Dan there in the comments. That goes, you have to be part of multiple communities for multiple years to understand that one. Wow. Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Love the callback.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep. Chiefs restructure quarterback Patrick Mahomes' contract, giving him $210.6 million between 2023 and 2026, making him the NFL's most money in a 4-year span ever. Those years are now fully guaranteed for him. So in the race to be the highest paid quarterback, Patrick Mahomes is now back on top. And Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson will not be fined for getting into an altercation and putting his hands on a ref on Monday Night Football. That seems to be a theme with him. So for injuries, Browns running back Nick Chubb out for the season.
That almost got by me because I was paying attention to something else instead of 100% on. Okay, sorry. It's not as funny when I call it out, but yeah.
For injuries, some injury news. Browns running back Nick Chubb is going to be out for the season with a pretty gruesome knee injury. Yeah. They chose not to show it on Monday Night Football, like on slow-mo replay.
Well, they chose not to show the bad angle.
Yes, that's
what
I was
showed it, but...
And that, if you only showed me that angle, I would not have thought it looked that bad.
No.
Yeah. They did air the footage in, like, Europe, I think it was. That's where
is that where we found it?
Yeah, a lot of people were like, well, lucky for you.
Yeah.
I was on the, I live in Europe and I had to watch the slow-mo replay. So if that's something you want to watch, go ahead. But I do commend them for making that step, for not showing it. I know that there was a lot of negative feedback about a lot of, like, Damar Hamlin. They showed videos of Damar Hamlin over and over and over and over and over again while they were still resuscitating him on the field. So there's been a lot of pushback about showing things like that almost unwillingly to audiences. So audiences can kind of seek out a lot of footage from a lot of places, but not unwillingly subjecting audiences and the players to that. So I commend them for that, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer a warning of some sort.
Yeah, like even that would be like, hey.
I'm also the type of person that's going to seek it out purely out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what happened.
Yeah.
But again, that's just a personal thing. So
I agree. Giants running back Saquon Barkley will be out for Thursday's game. They are playing on a short week. He has an ankle injury that he sustained in the final minutes of last week's game where the Giants were making a comeback. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson left the game because of a concussion after scoring 2 rushing touchdowns.
He got the concussion on the second one.
He did indeed. Bengals, this is a topic, man. Bengals are unsure if quarterback Joe Burrow will be able to play this week after he re-aggravated the calf injury he had before the season. lots of talk there on if he should have been playing with it in the first place. It seems only one person was right when he said he should sit out until week 4 or 5 and then come back when he was fully ready.
Jamar Chase.
And just in case you're curious on what rehab looks like for an NFL player, Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers is listening to dolphin mating noises, claiming that it's going to help him heal after his state-of-the-art Achilles surgery that he had last week.
He is aiming to be back for the NFL playoffs.
He is.
Thanks
40
to
years
dolphin
old.
mating noises.
Yeah.
I don't know what they sound
that keeps
like,
on giving.
but I'm really curious.
It's on YouTube.
Of course it is.
There are like sounds on YouTube.
I mean, they are the only other like animal on this planet that enjoys sex, and they don't just do it for mating. So, like, besides humans. Yeah. So, like, I imagine that the noises aren't dissimilar. And there has been a human that has fallen in love with a dolphin.
I remember that story.
I think that is not the first time I've mentioned it on this podcast, and I'm really intrigued to know why I mentioned it the first time, seeing as it definitely was not related to Aaron Rodgers' dolphin mating noises. But yeah, if you're ever in for an interesting read, just Google, the scientist that fell in love with a dolphin. They like live together. It's really weird stuff. Happened a while ago though. It's very odd, but very fascinating in a really weird way. But yeah,
nice. All right,
something like that.
Well, that's the news. We'll talk about some. Dan said dolphins are not nice animals, and that's true. And I didn't want to bring that up, but he did. Dolphins. Bullies and like sexually abuse other animals and each other.
True.
Just in case you're wondering.
Probably because they actually get enjoyment out of it like humans.
Weird.
It's very odd. This podcast is not going the direction I expected it to go.
Well, the direction we are going is into your 15-second segment. We're going to catch up on some more interesting stats and information afterwards, but I want you to do this first. You want to give us a reminder?
Yeah, so I get 15 seconds. Ashley's going to time me. I get 15 seconds per game this past week to tell you whatever I want about it, whatever I think is important or interesting. So, yeah.
Yay. All right. Ready, set, go.
Eagles, Vikings. Brian Flores and the Vikings defense did some weird stuff with 3- and 6-man fronts, and it had a clear effect on the passing game, but the Eagles decided to just run inside zone until the Vikings stopped it, and guess what? They didn't. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis continue to make interior offensive linemen look stupid.
Next.
Falcons, Packers. The Packers looked really good until they kind of just didn't. Jordan Love is really efficient. He threw for only 151 passing yards, but had 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Bijan is the closest thing I've seen to LaShawn McCoy since LaShawn McCoy. He's really, really good. Also, I still hate Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith basically hates everyone else. Raiders, Bills. Raiders started off hot and got the ball to Devontae Adams before they stopped doing that, and then they didn't. From then on out, it was just the Bills show with their offense having a massive bounce back game from last week. Shout out to James Cook with over 100 yards on the ground. Josh Jacobs, meanwhile, has not been good, and I wish I knew why that was.
Next.
Ravens, Bengals. Man, the Bengals have played like 6.5 awful quarters of football so far this season, followed by 1.5 where they almost made a comeback against the Ravens. Joe Burrow didn't look right, and it's not going to get any better after he re-aggravated his calf injury. Not really sure if the Bengals will make things right in time to save the season. Seahawks Lions, a really, really fun game to watch, actually, with the Seahawks winning in overtime. With David Montgomery injured for the Lions, maybe that will force Dan Campbell to utilize his top 12 draft pick in Jahmyr Gibbs, who is clearly the more talented player. Also a slow start to the season for rookie Jackson Smith-Njigba. Colts and Texans. The Texans are really letting C.J. Stroud sling it. I think he's actually looked pretty good throwing the football through the first 2 weeks, making use of all of his top 3 wide receivers. The Colts, meanwhile, managed to get things going on offense, both with and without their rookie quarterback, letting Minshew step in and get the save by not giving up the lead. Chiefs, Jaguars. Final score of 17-9 was not what most were expecting out of the highest over-under of the week, but it was more exciting than the score might say. The Jags' passing offense didn't look as though it was operating on all cylinders, but it was much improved week for Christian Kirk, and the Chiefs, meanwhile, are very thankful to have Travis Kelce back. Bucks and Bears. If you've been on Twitter, you've probably seen the clip of Justin Fields running directly into his offensive lineman, and I'll be honest, watching the game didn't feel all that different than that clip. The offense is an absolute mess, and I have to wonder whether or not my little cousin playing Madden call a better game. On the bright side, Baker Mayfield is better than Deshaun Watson in basically every statistical category, and I think that's funny. Titans, Chargers. Only the Chargers could start their season 0-2 while losing both games in such fashion. It is is crazy what those fans have had to endure. Meanwhile, the once brass-balled Brandon Staley for the Chargers is now punting on 4th and 2 from midfield. Something has to change for them.
Next.
Giants Cardinals. Both teams I like to see embarrassing themselves. Both managed to do it in one game. The Cardinals built a big lead only to blow it in the second half. Shout out to Johnny Gans. And while the Giants looked like my little cousin's flag football team in the first half, only to light the field on fire in the second. No idea what my takeaways are from this game, but it felt like watching toddlers fight over a toy. Niners Rams. In reality, I'm not sure how long at the end here the Niners win was really in jeopardy, but at the very least, the Rams seemed to keep up with them, especially in the first half. For a team that is starting and playing a ridiculous amount of young, unproven players, the Rams don't seem like they're going away anytime soon. Meanwhile, it was nice to see Purdy hold up to some actual adversity in a game. Cowboys Jets. Obviously, Dallas beat this team handily, but I can't say that I'm totally buying into it from the Cowboys offense yet. Their defense is lights out. I have no complaints there, but I'm just not bought into what the score of their first 2 games might be trying to paint the offense as. On the other hand, I don't know why Breece Hall only got 4 carries for the Jets. He looks fine. Commanders Broncos. What a weird game. It looked completely like a blowout, and then all of a sudden I looked at the score and the Commanders were within 1 score, and then all of a sudden they had won the game. Sean Payton may be blaming this on Russ, but he has to take at least some responsibility as well, being as it's his team and his offense. Either way, it really feels like this whole Broncos thing is just going to kind of blow up sooner rather than later. Dolphins Patriots. The best thing about this game was Bill Belichick spiking the challenge flag in front of the official. The game really wasn't as close as the final score might indicate, but the Patriots offense does continue to look better than last year, which isn't saying much. Also, I can see why Tua is the new betting favorite for MVP.
Next.
Saints Panthers, a defensive battle with neither Derek Carr or Bryce Young looking all that impressive. Taysom Hill, meanwhile, had 75 yards on the ground, exactly like we all predicted. This matchup is always a grinding one to watch, but I grow impatient waiting to see Carr really get comfortable with himself in New Orleans.
Next.
And finally, Browns Steelers. Just a heartbreaking and brutal injury for Nick Chubb. You never like to see that side of football. But other than him, the Browns looked about as dysfunctional as ever. With Watson throwing a pick 6 on the first play and also giving up a fumble that got returned for a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Now, without their best offensive player, I can't imagine the offense gets much better. Okay.
Do you have a final thought?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's getting better. You're getting back in the groove.
I mean, I'm not sick, and I was more prepared for how long 15 seconds actually is compared to last week. So, yeah, I felt a lot better. There was not a lot of stuff that I had to leave out on that one.
The last few were like 14 seconds long. You had like an extra second to wrap up your final thought.
I do what I can, you know.
Incredible.
I do it for the fans.
Anything specific you want to touch on or talk about?
I
know there's some stuff we'll talk about after, but...
Yeah, I'll just hit a couple of quick points to kind of expand upon from that. But Bijan looking like the closest thing that I have seen to LeSean McCoy. Like, I don't say that lightly, being an Eagles fan and seeing LeSean McCoy. I've seen every game that he ever played in an Eagles jersey, and I saw most of the ones that he played in a Bills jersey. Not so much the Chiefs or the Bucks years, but Bijan, he moves in a way like no one else. LeSean McCoy, the closest comp I ever had for him was Barry Sanders. I think he was the closest thing to Barry Sanders that the league has seen since Barry Sanders. And Bijan Robinson looks like that. And that's really, really impressive in a way that you can't fully understand unless you've kind of seen it. There's this really awesome clip going around of him in slow-mo from like an overhead view, juking out the defenders. Yeah. Really awesome. From this last week's game. Brian Flores and the Vikings defense. I forget the exact stat. Again, I should have written it down. It was something like over 40% of the time, they had 3-man fronts, meaning they had 3 guys on the defensive line. And over 40% of the time, they had 6+ man fronts, meaning that at least 6 guys were going directly after the quarterback. Those are both the most that has happened since, I believe, 2019 and 2021, and they happen in the same game. That means there was less than 20% of snaps where the Vikings were operating any type of normal-looking defense. They either had 3 men on the line or 6+ men on the line, and that's exactly how it felt because Jalen Hurts would either go back and get pressured out of his mind, which it happens. He actually performed pretty well into those. Or he'd drop back and there would be no pressure. And all of a sudden there's nowhere to go with the ball because there's 8 guys back there defending 3 or 4 pass catchers. Really weird stuff. Obviously a great answer by the Eagles offense with the just running inside zone with DeAndre Swift for 175 yards.
Now, you watched that. We both watched that game, but you're an Eagles fan, so you watched it a little bit more intently. Was that coverage like often disguised, or did they show that coverage often?
They
just straight up showed it.
They showed it pretty often. It was definitely disguised to a degree. Like they would sometimes make it look like it was going to be 3 and then do 6 or 6 and then 3. But like Brian Flores really just threw the kitchen sink out there and said, we have less talent, so I'm just going to do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what he did, and it worked to a degree. It worked until the Eagles were like, okay, well, we're just going to do this. If you're just going to let us, sure. Yeah. Also, in particular, Jordan Davis had a sack on Kirk Cousins that I had looked down at my phone. I walked out of the room when the snap started. I walked back in, and I saw him basically just tagging Kirk Cousins as he was on the ground, and I was like, oh, I guess Jordan Davis. Like I had bet on a Jordan Davis sack, so I got money for it, but I was like, I don't feel like I earned that. Yeah. I saw the replay later. Jordan Davis made 2 offensive linemen at the same time look like children. They snapped the ball, and there was a bunch of motion, and he pushed the 2 offensive linemen into a tight end that was motioning across. And then that tight end then fell into Kirk Cousins, who Jordan Davis then just tapped. And it's like, that is a grown man making a grown man play that I have not seen very often in the NFL.
Do you know what that makes me think?
What?
I'm terrified.
Yeah, you should be. Because Jalen Carter is also top 10 in the NFL in pressures. Not among defensive tackles, not among rookies, top 10 among all players.
Did you see that clip I sent you of Evan Neal on Twitter?
No, I don't check your tweets.
It wasn't my tweets. I sent it to you.
I don't check them, me.
Anyway, we often send a lot of stuff like content to talk about there, but there's a video of Evan Neal getting absolutely beat, but he looks like an NPC. Like he's just like standing there with his hands out, like you would like a Madden glitch. And we have to go against that pressure twice this year. So that's awesome.
I love those types of things. I like when people look like NPCs in real life.
Right.
That was very funny.
Right.
But other than that, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to touch on in particular as I'm scrolling.
How do you feel about Matt Canada? And
he deserves to be fired. Like why is he still there? Like
he has to know where bodies are buried or something, because there's no way.
I don't get it. You can look at any chart you want about like where the Steelers' offense is, and they're always in the bottom left.
Did you see that when I said you?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's so bad. Their offense is terrible, and they're not even like trying to pretend. To be clear, the passing and rushing efficiency in 2023, it includes all downs, all quarters. And you've got, around 0,0 are most teams, with some on the top right and some are on the, everyone's around that area. I mean, with the y-axis being rush EPA and the x-axis being the drop back EPA. And then down in the bottom left in quite literally Canada, compared to where everyone else is the
literally
Steelers
cut off.
Offense. Yeah, it's horrible. It shifts the entire view of the chart.
Yeah, it's negative 1.2 drop back EPA per play, and over negative 8 rush per EPA per play.
Yeah,
at Canada.
It's not great. I am sharing the chart if you're curious. So yeah, if you're watching on video, that's the chart I'm talking about. They look horrible. It's embarrassing, and I don't understand why he has a job.
I found that chart, just so everyone knows, from Sam Wagman on Twitter.
Yes, shout out Sam Wagman.
Can you make us tiny?
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, he's a good follow. I like Sam. I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention, but I don't remember what it was. So that's fine.
Okay, I don't think either of us are going to bring this up in the segment we have coming up, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Yeah.
So obviously I mentioned Jamar Chase was the only one who came out after that calf injury and said, he should not play. And he wasn't as blunt with it, but basically, we should hold down the fort and he should come back in a couple weeks, like give him time to heal. And he's played, and that offense is not working right now. And I don't know how you feel about like how much is attributed to the fact that he may not be 100%, especially now that he's tweaked that calf again.
I mean, I think it's not. It's hard to tell because I think a lot of it is their game plan and the way they're approaching the offense. You know, I talked about this a little bit last week, and it's mostly from reading people, reading articles from people that are a lot smarter than me. Ben Solak being a big one that I like to read, and it seems like they're approaching offense in a different way because of the injury, and that's where a lot of the issues are stemming from. So obviously the calf is probably affecting his ability, but what is affecting the offense even more is the way that they are. You know, you're going to run a marathon differently if your leg hurts than if you're healthy. And it's not so much that was a bad comparison. I don't know exactly. I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm having trouble actually saying it right now. But regardless, it's an issue. And now it's only going to be a bigger issue if he's even there. And even worse, you started 0-2 in the AFC, which we've said all season, all preseason, all off season is the harder of the two conferences. You're now 0-2 with big losses.
And the Ravens are 2-0.
Yeah. And you also, you're 0-2 in the division too.
Yeah.
That's bad because, well, I had them being the 1 seed, and that's probably not going to happen now. Like, that's reality. Like, effectively, your chances to make the playoffs when you start 0-2 are very bad. And obviously, you know, it's all situational.
They did start 0-2 last year, right?
I couldn't tell you.
I think they did.
I feel like they might have.
But I know what you're saying. Like, even still, like, statistically, your chances significantly decrease based off of data from the NFL.
11% of teams that start 0-2 since 1990 make the playoffs. The Bengals did do that last season. It's obviously situational, but there's not a lot to be excited about or happy about or makes you think, oh, they're going to figure this out. Because even good teams, when they're dealing with this type of stuff, they can still manage to win games. I mean, most of the teams in the NFL right now are struggling. Like, they're clearly not, you know, it's early in the season. The Eagles, they haven't looked good. They're 2-0. The Chiefs haven't really looked good. They're 1-1. The Bills, 1-1. Like, most teams aren't getting off to the start that the Niners or the Dolphins are, where they're 2-0 and they look incredible while doing it. So,
yeah, I agree. I do want to add in a new little segment here where we're going to talk about, so I mentioned our Twitter DMs. We share a lot of fun information on there and a lot of like fun stats and information. I want to share some of that. So, I do. So I'm going to share it. One, Monday Night Football is cursed.
I don't want to talk about this one. The Eagles play Monday Night Football this week, and I don't want to think about this one at all.
Yeah.
So I've kind of just ignored every tweet I've seen about it.
Yeah. So it was.
And now we're going to talk about it, of course.
Well, all I'm going to say is it was. I can't remember which the third one was, but it was Nick Chubb. This one, Damar Hamlin was the one before that,
and then Aaron Rodgers was in the middle.
Aaron Rodgers was.
In the middle. You went. It's Damar Hamlin was the final Monday Night Football game of last year. If you weren't aware, somehow he basically died on the field. He went into cardiac arrest after a hit, and he's now alive. That's good. The first one of this season, Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL on the 4th snap, and in this one, Chubb, his career might be over by his leg snapping. He did the bend and snap in a bad way.
Yeah.
So
Monday Night Football is cursed. Second, the Chargers are now the only team to ever start 0-2 despite scoring 50+ points and having no turnovers in their first 2 games.
And then that's exactly what I was talking about. There are so many ways to quantify what the Chargers have done. Not even this season, but it feels like every season. Like from the Philip Rivers days. Yeah. Philip Rivers days. It feels like I should take off the S of his last name, but I hate the English language sometimes. But even the Philip Rivers days, like they're just always doing weird stuff, and it always results in them losing games where they have these like incredible primetime games, and they just lose it in like the worst fashion I've ever seen, in the most embarrassing way. Like there was one from like a Raiders game like 2 years ago that comes to mind. I think it was at the end of the season, and like Brandon Staley did some weird stuff with his timeouts or something, like just weird things, and they just keep finding new ways to one up themselves, and it's so depressing.
Well, even
honestly.
This one, right? So this one's from Ben Solak. Since 2010, teams with 275 passing yards and no turnovers are 382, 96, and 2. That's a win percentage of 80%. With the loss to the Titans today, the Chargers are now one of the 96.
It's just like, you can just keep finding these weird stats.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know what to say about them, because it's just like, yeah, like sometimes you find these weird stats and you're like, oh, it doesn't feel like that. It's like one of those things. It's like, oh, I didn't feel that stat happening. Where it's like, oh, this happened. You're like, oh, that's surprising.
Interesting.
The Chargers do these things, and you're like, yeah, no, that's
Makes
exactly what it felt like as I was watching them. It feels like they are 0-2 despite scoring 50 points and having no turnovers.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that makes sense, but they continue to do it. Like, you look at the Giants. They've shot themselves in the foot. Like, I don't think they have feet anymore. They had to get amputated, and they're 1-1. The Chargers haven't really shot themselves in the foot. They have no turnovers. But someone, like, there's a meme that, like, perfectly describes this, and I can't think of it, but it's like, it's like the grandpa who's, like, with the gun, and it's like, it's not...
call an ambulance. Call an ambulance, but not for me.
Yeah, like that's how I feel. Like there's someone doing that to the Chargers, and I don't know who it is, because it's not really the other teams either. It's just very bizarre. I don't know.
I want to put a pin in this specific one, because I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit. I don't want to go too far. Some more fun stats. Well, do you want to talk about this one here, or do you want to wait? I feel like I'll share the stat here, and then we'll elaborate a little bit further. Puka Nacua set the record for the most receptions in a single game by a rookie with 15 receptions. He is only the 5th player in history to have 10 plus receptions in each of his first 2 games. He shares that spot with Cooper Kupp. And we'll touch on that in a second. I found out through Monday Night Football that the Panthers were the most overhauled roster this offseason. Only 40% of them are returners.
That is the worst wording you could have ever used. That makes it sound like 40% of their roster are return men. Like, I read that. I was like, what the heck? 40% of their team is just on the team to punt and kick return? That's crazy.
Imagine. No.
How about only 40% are returning players?
No, that would be the same thing.
No, because you don't call that guy the returning player. You call him the returner.
The returner. I don't know. I feel like there's still another.
No, this is like the humble 6 thing. Like, no one says it because it's stupid. Like, you call them returning players. You don't call them returners.
Only 40% of last year's roster returned to play for the Panthers this year.
That makes it sound like a bunch died, but it's fine.
Now you're just insinuating.
No, I'm just saying, like, you choose the weirdest ways to phrase the simplest things. And I feel like if it weren't for me, you'd think they were totally normal. It's like, oh, that's a totally normal thing I just said, where I combined 3 different, like, allegories and, like, what? Like, all of a sudden you're playing in Madden where it's got the depth chart listed and there's, like, 40 players, and it's like, all right, let me put Peyton Manning in as a returner real quick. Like, no.
Well, we had this conversation because there was something I said in the first episode. I was rewatching the first episode on the 2-year anniversary, and you were like, glad things haven't changed. You still have no idea how to say things, period.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find what that is.
Oh, I know what it was.
Oh,
I know exactly what it was. It was, I meant to say, don't get your panties in a twist, and I said, don't lose your panties.
Which makes no sense. They're not the same thing.
No, it wasn't. I didn't mean to say that, but that's just what came out.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
All right. Let's talk about the Giants for a second.
You also you realize you skipped one, right?
Oh, TJ Watt scored his first touchdown.
Yeah, he's also now the league or the Steelers all-time leader in sacks. And he did it in like half the number of games as the
Yeah.
guy that he passed in James Harrison, which is wild.
Yes,
Like if you didn't
he's,
already
like,
know he
on
was good.
track to break several records. I didn't write those ones down. Giants. There are so many interesting things about this game. Daniel Jones was the first ever quarterback to throw for 250 plus yards, rush for 50 plus yards, throw multiple touchdown passes, rush for a touchdown, and have no turnovers in a second half in NFL history. Crazy.
It's because normally,
obviously,
like,
that's because
players that are
normally
good enough to
people
be
don't-
capable of players that are normally good enough to be capable of doing that don't need to do it all in the second half.
Yeah. Let's see some more interesting stats about that game.
Moved on real quick.
There's this was from a Giants beat reporter, Dan Schneider. The Josh Jobs Cardinals have not punted yet, and we are at the end of the third quarter. That was crazy. The Cardinals didn't have to punt until the third quarter. I had more in here, but I can't seem to find them. Either way, the Giants didn't score a point in the first 6 quarters of the season. The last time that happened was 1934. For the Giants.
And they went on to win the championship.
They did do that. I didn't even mention that. You should be proud of that. I'm just talking about how long it's been.
I'm just glad you're not that. Like I don't know what the word is.
Delusional?
Delusional. That is the correct word.
Yeah.
If necessary, I can remind the listeners
No,
what
it's
delusional
okay.
sounds like.
No, it's okay.
You don't want me to play the clip?
No, it's okay.
You
We're
sure?
running out of time. Yeah.
No, we have plenty of time.
Yeah, that was just there was a lot of stats there. That's what I'm looking for. I really need to compile all of these into one specific place instead of having them scattered around, like some screenshotted and some in the messages. But there was
This is great podcasting.
I don't know. That was confusing. Anyway, we'll move on.
It's even more confusing for us.
Well, I just said that the Giants. That was a different stat. Now I'm here.
What was? You haven't said anything.
The last comeback win of 20 plus points for the New York Giants was in November 19th of 1950 against the Baltimore Colts. I was getting the
that
two
was
stats
not worth
confused.
the wait.
No.
That stat took like 5 minutes to get there, and it was not worth the wait.
Yeah, that was too long. That was way too long.
Yeah, how are you feeling after that game? I'm curious.
Like I lost 3 years on the longevity of my life. Never doubted for a second that they were gonna win that one. Full confidence.
I don't even think I'd want them to win, to be honest.
Amazing. It was so awesome. Speaking of controversy, lots of talk that Brian Dable took over the play calling from Kafka at halftime.
Former Eagle great Mike Kafka.
He's playing the long con, I think.
I'm pretty sure I've been on that since day one. Mike Kafka playing the long con in the New York Giants, and I'm into it. I like it. He's an Eagle for life.
Yeah.
He could probably be a little more subtle about it, though.
Just a little. So the offense completely changed after halftime, and the announcers at first were like, would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that pump-up speech or whatever. And then they started like showing the sidelines a little bit more, and there's a podcast called Talking Giants, and one of their hosts.
What do they talk about?
The Giants.
Oh, okay.
And one of their hosts, Justin Pennick, did a whole video, like showing a lot of clips of Daboll on the sideline. Even when like losing to the Cowboys, never held a play sheet, like didn't look down at a play sheet. But the second half of this game, sometimes you could see Kafka just sitting there, and Daboll would have a play sheet in his hand, cover his mouth, and look like he was calling plays. He was a very good liar about it. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, on the Kay Adams show, was not he didn't seem to be such a great liar. He was like smiling through it and being like, it's Daboll's offense, and Kafka has always given me plays. Okay, so lots of eyes on the sideline this next game.
I mean, it could still be accurate to the degree of, I know with some offenses, it'll come from the head
Yeah.
coach to the offensive coordinator to the quarterback, which is stupid, but
Yes. And I've seen that, but this is one of the first times, I'm going to refer back to Justin Pennick's video, but that he's like had a play sheet actively like covered his mouth while communicating over the headset. Just a lot of weird things, and the offense looked completely different. So conspiracies.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's do our next thing, in which we're going to make a statement, and the other person is going to tell you if you're overreacting, underreacting, or if you're valid in those feelings.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. Let's start with Brandon Staley.
Oh, never mind.
Brandon Staley should be fired.
No, I think that you're underreacting. I think he should have been. I don't know. What is worse than like literally firing him out of a cannon? Like, let me call him right now and tell him to pack his bags. I don't know. I agree with you 1,000%. So he came over, and his big thing was he was a defensive guy with the Rams, a great defensive coordinator, and he was an analytics guy, like through and through. Analytics, a great buzzword that half the people that say it understand. And in the first season, we saw that they had a solid defense, and he went for it on fourth down all the time. Sometimes too much, but like I'm definitely on the camp of like I'd rather you be more aggressive than less aggressive in today's NFL.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't know what the point of all that is anymore. As I mentioned in my 15-second frenzy, they punted on 4th and 2 from midfield twice in the same game. Like, that is a clear go for it situation when you're looking at the analytics. So if he actually has someone whispering in his ear, that guy should be fired, or he's not listening to that person, in which case he should be fired, because that's malpractice, especially when you have the third best offense in terms of EPA in the NFL, and you just paid Justin Herbert $1 billion. You drafted Quentin Johnson in the first round. You're paying Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Yeah, Austin Eckler isn't there, but okay. You've got all those other weapons. Donald Parham is weirdly having kind of like a mini sort of breakout, kind of under the radar thing. I love me some Donald Parham, former XFL legend. It was big on my fantasy team back in the day, in the XFL, not the NFL. But no, we're going to punt it, and we're going to let our defense handle it. Oh, the defense that is 30th in EPA, expected points added, in the NFL. So tell me, you're making the wrong analytical calls, and you're also 30th best defense in the league. Oh, and you're also spending a crap ton of money on defense. You can't say it's a talent issue. I don't get it. I don't get what the point of him being there is. You're 0-2. And like we said in the AFC, like 0-2, 11% of teams make the playoffs. And with this AFC, it's going to be even harder than that, if I had to guess. Not to mention the division you're in has the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you're going to make the playoffs, it's probably as a wild card, and you're going to have to play an away game. Oh, and by the way, last year you blew the same fourth quarter lead against the Jaguars. I don't get I would fire him now, because I don't see a world where I feel so confident and comfortable at the end of the season that I want him to keep his job. So why not just do it now?
Yeah.
Honestly, hand the reins to Kellen Moore and just see what the heck happens. Yeah. It might be bad. I don't know, but he's got the offense rolling, so screw it.
Yeah, that's the thing. They haven't. It's the same thing as we were talking about with the stats. They haven't looked bad, like, but it's just stupid, like stupid decisions. I would rather see Kellen Moore doing it, because obviously the way that it's going is not working. And also, have you ever seen the memes about like Justin Herbert and his like clutch gene, and that, you know, in made up situations, Justin Herbert has like, you know, 4 Super Bowl rings and 3 MVPs, but it's just like he is playing his heart out there, and it's constantly everyone is constantly relying on him to win on the game, and as much as quarterbacks do that, it shouldn't always have to be that way, and that's the way it always is.
Doing everything he can.
Yeah.
Like,
Just give it to Kellen Moore. Okay. Next.
Yeah. So the Chiefs' offense is struggling this season, and it's because they lost their former offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy to the Washington Commanders.
Valid.
That is my statement.
I'm gonna call it valid.
No.
Maybe a little underreacting. I don't know. So
wow, I made a statement I don't even believe in for the sake of this segment, and now I feel like I'm gonna have to talk you out of it.
You might have to. I'm just kind of like, Washington surprised me, and I really like what Eric Bieniemy has done with them. I think what it is, the reason I'm leaning that way is because I still don't understand how the man doesn't have a head coaching job and then did really well with Washington, like has been doing well with Washington so far. Anyway, some information. I liked this quote from Fansided, an article from Fansided about how Bieniemy reached into his bag for offensive play calling to pull off the comeback victory. In the second half, he decreased Sam Howell's number of dropbacks to 12 compared to 33 in the first half, leaned more heavily on the run, got good yardage from Brian Robinson. I really like how they're running an offense that comes at you from several angles. And the Chiefs just look discombobulated. I think I could chalk the first one up to Travis Kelce not being there. The second one, they just don't really look like the Chiefs. And I don't know how much of that is Eric Bieniemy. So currently, I would say valid until I get more data.
Yeah, I disagree heavily with you. I understand that's not the point of the segment.
I know.
Go. But it's Andy Reid. It's always been Andy Reid.
I know.
And I'm not even accusing. I am accusing you of attributing this success to Eric Bieniemy because that's ridiculous. Even though I was the one that made the statement. Again, it was more for the sake of I thought you were going to talk me out of it, and it was the point of conversation. It was
No, we're arguing.
But no, Andy Reid he's one of the best offensive minds in NFL history. Like just straight up, he is. The issue is look at the weapons. Like again, like Mahomes isn't playing perfect football, but if Kadarius Toney didn't drop the ball like 20 times in week 1, they're 2-0, and their offensive stats look at least kind of better, and that's without Travis Kelce. The Jags have a good defense, and like this isn't me just like sitting here trying to make excuses and throw them out one after the other. It's just like they haven't been great, but I don't think it's because Eric Bieniemy isn't there. He didn't call plays. It's not like they're missing his play calling. Yeah, I'm sure he contributed something, but at the end of the day, Andy Reid has lost more offensive coordinators than anyone could care to count. And between offensive coordinators and QB coaches, like he's lost a ridiculous amount. They've never really slowed him down before. Maybe got off to a slow start, but they'll figure it out. The real issue is just they have a right tackle that they paid $1 billion that they benched during the game because he's playing poorly. We know what a bad offensive line can do to any quarterback. Look at the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of things. Eric Bieniemy is maybe 10% of it. Like when you lose a guy who's been there for so long, yeah, it's going to have an impact.
I also think that may be what it is because the same thing happened with the Bills when they lost Gable.
Yeah, but I think that's completely different because they don't have an Andy Reid. They have a Sean McDermott,
I get that,
but Sean McDermott isn't Andy Reid. He's not the offensive play caller. He's the defensive guy. Brian Daboll was the Andy Reid there. They still haven't looked the same since losing Brian Daboll.
That's a conversation for another time.
And if this season ends and this Chiefs offense still looks this discombobulated, I would be happy to have that conversation. But like, and that's not me comparing Brian Daboll to Andy Reid. Big difference, long history, whatever. But like, Andy Reid is the thing that keeps that train moving. It's not Eric Bieniemy. He contributed, and whenever you lose contributors, things are going to happen. Hiccups are going to happen. The Eagles lost Shane Steichen. Hiccups are going to happen, but it's Nick Sirianni's offense. Even if he's not the one calling the plays, it's his offense. Eric Bieniemy didn't make the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Andy Reid did. And he did the same thing for 10 years in Philadelphia, where he lost countless offensive coordinators. So all that to say, I disagree with my own statement, and I think I'm an idiot. So
Anyway, I think your next question can go faster than the answer to my next question. So why don't you ask the next one, your next one, and then we'll go.
Again, I approach this differently than you. I'm realizing now these aren't necessarily things I believe, but they are statements that I've seen and I would think make for interesting conversation. So the next one that I have is Cooper Kupp is a system wide receiver and not actually that talented.
Overreaction.
Yep.
Puka Nacua is the Google search. I was trying to look up some stats, and the Google search was, is Puka Nacua good?
That feels like one of those variety or
yes, where they like have the things
they,
and they like peel
it off, and it's just like these
and it
stupidly
says,
worded
is
like
Puka Nacua, and then the next one just says good. Like they unveil a whole big piece of paper just for it to say
is
good.
Puka Nacua actor? Yes, I am an actor. It's like the dumbest things I've ever watched, and I love every single one of them.
Yes, I will watch them all the time. But he has been playing really well. I think the way Sean McVay has been using him is incredible. But for me, I was intrigued to see that he's playing double the amount of snaps out wide than he is in the slot. And while their stats are lining up and it's making it look like he is just like Cooper Kupp is a system wide receiver because Puka Nacua can do what he did in the first two games, Cooper Kupp is still what I consider to be like generational talent, which is a word that's thrown around a lot, but extremely good. And I don't think you can attribute all of his success to the system he plays in. I think you can pick him out and place him in another system and he will still be just as good.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think people are both overrating Puka Nacua's first two games, but also underrating it. Like, you can just say that he's really talented, and that's great.
Yeah.
And Cooper Kupp is also talented. And there's also the fact that Matthew Stafford has thrown the ball for like the two most receiving yards by a wide receiver in any given season with Megatron and Cooper Kupp. And he likes hyper targeting guys. He likes saying, that's my guy. And he has no issue with throwing it to that guy if that guy's getting open. And guess what? Cooper Kupp can get open. And so can Puka Nacua, apparently. And so could Calvin Johnson. So, yeah, like he's a piece of this puzzle too. So is the Sean McVay offense, by the way. But yeah, Cooper Kupp he's very talented. You don't get that many yards. You don't get a Super Bowl MVP just by being in a system.
Yep. 100%.
Unless it's Chip Kelly's system.
Yeah.
I rewatched an interview. I didn't rewatch. An interview came out with I'm going to take a second on this because it's bothering me now that I'm thinking about it. Mike Vick came out with an interview. He was talking to Deshaun Jackson about the Chip Kelly thing and how they just how he tore it all down because it was his system. And they went into the season. They got rid of LaShawn McCoy. They got rid of Deshaun Jackson. And then, Mike Vick slowly, he faded away or whatever. And it's just like, wow, I hate Chip Kelly. I know it resulted in us getting a Super Bowl ultimately, but like, I hate Chip Kelly. I hate what he did to this city. Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, LaShawn McCoy, Mike Vick, that offense, man, that would have been. I mean, it was beautiful while it existed, and I'm angry. Anyway.
All beautiful things are fleeting.
That's depressing.
I feel like that's a quote.
Probably is. It sounds depressing enough, too.
Something. Anyway, depressing. My topic. The Bears should blow it all up and start over completely.
Yeah, I mean, look, Justin Fields has looked really bad. It's probably it's valid. It's
valid.
Justin Fields has looked really bad, but also, God, that coaching staff is so bad.
Did you see his comments on it?
Yeah, which we're taking a little out of context.
I agree.
To be clear.
But that was like my final, like, dude, just blow it all up. I was on the end, like, completely restart. And then after all of that stuff and, like, rewatching some tape from that game, you gotta send him to the moon.
I don't get what the point of Matt Eberflus is. He was supposed to be his defensive dude. They're 32nd in defensive EPA. That is last for those counting at home. Yeah, it's not the end-all, be-all stat. But they haven't been good. They haven't stopped anyone. I'm not sure they've recorded a sack in 2 games. I don't know if you could fact check that for me while I'm talking, but I don't think they have. They're 26th in offensive EPA, and Justin Fields has looked lost. But he's also not running the ball, which tells me this is more than just Justin Fields not being the greatest quarterback to ever live. It's This offense is not doing anything to play to his strengths at all. Yeah.
One.
They have one sack?
Yannick Ngakwe.
Ah, okay. So they have one sack in 2 games, which is also very bad.
Yeah.
And it's looked every part of that. But Justin, like they're not putting him in a way. They run like these, like the same. Like it feels like they're just it feels, and I feel like I've said this multiple times. It truly feels like I'm watching like my little cousin play Madden, and he's calling like he only knows how to get to like one section of the playbook, so he just clicks on like the same 4 plays.
Yep.
And then, but he's playing on all Madden, and he doesn't know what to do after he snaps the ball because everything happens so fast.
Yes.
And every now and then, because Justin Fields is fast or has a good arm, he gets a playoff. And then the rest of the time, he's running into his offensive lineman. And it's like...
Well, some of the comments I saw today...
Justin Fields.
Some of the comments I saw today were pretty interesting. It was regarding that press conference, and not taking everything he said as truth, and obviously some comments taken out of context. But the possibility that Justin Fields is like overcoached in certain situations.
Well, that was the whole robotic thing.
Yeah, that's because that was he said, it feels super robotic, and it's almost I didn't save it, but seen a tweet from someone that was like, it sounds almost like someone's in his ear saying, look out for this read, like look out for, and then he's so locked in on trying to do that he forgets to go through, he is told that pressure is coming. It doesn't actually come, but he's so focused on identifying that he's not going through progression reads. He's not analyzing options in the moment, that he's like overcoached.
This is reminding me very specifically of some Disney Channel original movie. I'm like 90% sure. And I'll reference it without remembering what it is. But like it's about like a pitcher in a baseball movie. I don't think it was Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, because I don't think this was the point of the movie. But no, it was Recess, School's Out. Animated TV show, TV movie. And the one kid who's like a sports star or whatever, he goes to like this baseball camp over the summer, and he's pitching, and he's not doing as well as he's used to. And this coach is like, he's like he keeps saying, aim it, don't throw it. You want to aim it to where you're going or whatever. And so every time he goes back and he goes to throw the ball, it's not doing what he's used to it doing. And so finally his one friend near the end of the movie, I think they're trying to blow up something in the school that's about to like mind control a bunch of people. It was a TV movie. It's fine. Everything worked out. But he's got to throw it there, and he's questioning his talent because he's like, I haven't been doing well at baseball camp. And his buddy's like, just throw it. Don't aim it. Like, what you can do. Just throw it. And he does. He saves the day. Woohoo! It's the thing. And like they realize, like, that's kind of what I feel like Justin Fields needs to realize. Or like, sometimes when you fire a coaching staff and everything kind of just calms down and the team is able to play better, like that kind of feels like you just need to take the coaching out of it and almost just say, Justin Fields, kind of just go out there and play. We know he has talent. We know that he can throw the ball. We know that he can run. Like, if he's second guessing every decision that he's making all the time, which you're right, that's what it feels like. That's why he says he's playing robotic, is because of the coaching staff. Like, he just needs to throw it. Stop aiming it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Shout out Recess. Great show. Great movie.
I'm going to read just some stats. This was from My Sports Update, Ari Mirov. The Bears have had Justin Fields start 27 games so far in the NFL. They're 5-22 in those games. He's been sacked 101 times. His completion percentage is 59.8. He has thrown 26 touchdowns to 24 interceptions. He has fumbled 31 times. 8 of those were lost. He's averaging just 156.5 passing yards per game. And after rushing for just over 1,000 yards last season, the Bears have had Fields carry the ball just 13 times in 2 games this season.
It's not great.
Not great. So do you think the answer is coaching? Like, do we get coaches in there or take coaches out?
Justin Fields might not be great. But the point is I don't know. I don't think that what we're seeing is an accurate representation of who he is as a player. And if you dropped him into most other NFL teams, I think we'd be getting a different result. I don't know if that result is leagues better than what we're getting with the Bears, but all I'm fairly positive of is I don't think a lot of players are going to succeed in that. Quarterbacks are succeeding in that situation, really. Like that's my take. That's my take from it. I'm not in the building. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in these meetings. Like I can only know so much, but I don't think that Justin Fields is the driving problem there. I think it's whatever is going into their process.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there'll be lots more overreactions and underreactions in the first few weeks of this NFL season, but those are our first few thoughts. Duncan, where can everyone find you?
You can find me reading incessantly over the James Harden Kelly Oubre drama that has been trending recently because the Sixers signed Kelly Oubre and apparently James Harden hates him. So that's fun. Things are never dull in the Philadelphia sports world. There's also like a whole thing happen that no one cares. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. You can find me producing the Undrafted podcast, hosted by Jax Falcone at Dino Game Theory every week, and you can find me on Sunday mornings at 11:30 EST on the Fantasy Football Chat Discord with Derek Fuchs. With the Undroppables doing a start-sit show for your fantasy teams. We go from 11:30 to 1 o'clock Eastern time, right up until kickoff. So,
and they will let you blame them if they give you a fantasy.
That's what we're there for. That's what we're there for.
That's
what everyone needs.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's at Ashley. You can find me, Duncan, and the entire Undroppables crew on our Discord, on Undroppables Discord channels, which you can gain access to by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables. You can find me and Duncan live here at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday nights. And you can listen back on wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, or YouTube. So thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. And I hope you all have a lovely week of football.
Bye. Go Birds.
Bye.